Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Let's talk about some favorite panned debut albums. I'm going to start off here with an album from 1970. No one ever talks about, gets very low ratings. I don't understand. I think it's fantastic. It is the debut from Brinsley Schwarz. Now at this point, Brinsley Schwarz is a four-piece, and Nick Lowe is in the band. He's the principal songwriter. We've got Bill Rankin on drums, Bob Andrews on keyboards, guitar, and Brinsley Schwarz on guitar. Brinsley Schwarz would go on to play with numerous people throughout the 70s, of course, famously with Graham Parker and The Rumor. But this is a fabulous record. It kind of reminds me of like Grateful Dead, Working Man's Dead, American Beauty era, which is pretty much from that same era, 1970. It has that kind of vibe with maybe a little more edge, maybe not as accessible as those albums. But I think there's some fine tracks on here. This is a CD reissue, obviously, by One Way Records. And there are 15 tracks. I don't know what the original, I don't know if this is like, there's bonus tracks on here, but love that first track, Him to Me. And there's just gems throughout. What Do You Suggest? Country Girl is fantastic. Love Song. Yeah, it's not perfect, but I think it's really, really cool. It has a really nice, warm, analog sound, early 70s, analog sound. Really, really great stuff. So throwing it here in the mix, a favorite of mine. Love other albums of theirs as well, like Silver Pistol. That's a fantastic record that came out a few years later. But right here, we're highlighting favorite panned debut albums. This is Brinsley Schwarz's debut album, self-titled, from 1970. How about the debut from the Tubes from 1975? Tubes don't really get a lot of critical respect. I think they were a great live act. I didn't see them in their heyday. My wife and I saw them probably, I'd say 15 years ago in Santa Cruz. I don't know if Santa Cruz still has these free boardwalk shows in the summer, but at that time they did. We just happened to be vacationing near that area at the time, and we saw them live. Fee Waybill, who was such a great frontman, put on an amazing show. This album here has two of probably their most popular early tracks. White Punks on Dope, last song on side 2, and then What Do You Want From Life? Really entertaining, satirical art rock. Really great stuff here. The debut from the Tubes from 1975. Now, Radiohead. Radiohead is on tour right now in Europe. They're doing like 20 dates across Europe, I think in Italy and London. Few other places, like I think 5 dates each or 4 days each. And I have this this kind of fetish about looking at set lists from different bands when they're out playing. You know, bands, artists that I like. I want to know what's in the set list, right? So I've been looking at the set lists of Radiohead shows, and not one track from their debut album is played. They almost discredit this entire album. They never play anything from it. Once in a blue moon in the past, they would play Creep, but they never play one single song from this album live. Haven't for years. And I think it's really underrated, this record. I mean, it's no Benz, it's no OK Computer, but there's songs on here that kind of point towards the future, like Blowout, the last track. It sounds like something that may have been on the Benz in the next album. Creep, I never liked Creep. I never liked that track. In fact, I found it really interesting that when that song came out, I thought, who is this one-hit wonder? And then the Benz came out, and it was highly regarded, and then OK Computer. It's like they went from this like kind of one-hit wonder status to this just totally highly acclaimed band. But I don't really see anything a whole lot wrong with this album. There's some really fantastic tracks on here, and it really showcases Radiohead in their formation when they were kind of more grungy, loud and grungy sounding. Tracks like Ripcord, Rock, other songs like Stop Whispering are really intense, and it really showcases Tom York's vocal prowess right off the bat. Just an amazing vocalist. I noticed on this current tour, I've seen some clips, he's not exactly hitting the high notes like he used to, but he still has, I'd say, 90% of his range. And this is where it all starts. Some of my favorites on here would be Vegetable, Prove Yourself is great, Lurgy. So, yeah, not highly rated, but I've never understood the hate for this record. I like it. Pablo, Honey by Radiohead, their debut album, has some really fine tracks. How about the debut album from Big Brother and the Holding Company, excuse me, from 1967. Yes, it's no Cheap Thrills, it's no Pearl, but anything with Janis Joplin on it singing. And there's, you know, there's what, this is like 4 albums of Joplin, 4 studio albums, 2 with Big Brother, 1 with the Cosmic Blues Band, and 1 with the Full Tilt Boogie Band. I don't know. There's some great tracks on here, some standards, some Joplin standards. Bye Bye Baby starts it off, really, really great. Call on Me, Down on Me, just a fantastic rocker. It doesn't have a lot of punch, this particular version, but the one at Monterey Pop really packs a punch. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's just great hearing Janis in her kind of, in her early roots here with Big Brother. This is on the mainstream record label, kind of an indie label back in the 60s. And then, of course, they would sign with Columbia. Clive Davis would sign them after seeing them at Monterey Pop. But I like this album a lot. I think it's really cool. It's raw. It's very, it's not produced very well, but I think that's why I like it. Big Brother and the Holding Company from 67, their debut. Another one, too, that doesn't get a lot of love is Aerosmith's debut. I love this album. There's 8 songs on here, and they just rock. Of course, when it came out, the critics hated it, called them kind of a second-rate Rolling Stones. I don't think they sound like the Rolling Stones at all. I mean, Tyler, he does look a little bit like Jagger as lead vocalist, but they have their own thing going on here. They sound more like a bar band, like a really good bar band here on this debut album. You've got the classic Dream On, of course, still played today, nonstop. I think some of the best tracks on here, though, are these bluesy type numbers like One Way Street, which ends side 1. Really nice, hook-filled, bluesy, rockin' track. Love it. Make It is great. The 2 songs that start off side 1 and 2, Make It and Mama Kin rock. Walking the Dog, they do a version of that. I think it's really great. Really, really raw Aerosmith. Love their first 4 albums. This one, Get Your Wings, Toys in the Attic, and Rocks. I think early Aerosmith is just fantastic. So I'm throwing this in the bunch. Not a very highly rated album. It's one of my favorite pan debut albums, and that is Aerosmith's debut from 73. Here's a complete nostalgic favorite. In fact, this is probably one of the first albums I ever heard in my entire life. This is probably, you know, part of the roots of why I like music growing up. Very, very early musical experience here for me. The Monkees debut. Sister played it nonstop back in the day. And I think that 3/4 of this really has some fantastic tracks. Saturday's Child, we've talked about that in other videos. That just rocks. It's a great garage rocker. Tomorrow's Gonna Be Another Day, Mickey Dolenz sung track. Really, really good. You got 2 Mike Nesmith sung tracks on here, Papa Jean's Blues and Sweet Young Thing. Take a Giant Step is fantastic track by sung by Mickey Dolenz. You got the hit Last Train to Clarksville. You got the Monkees theme. Yeah, there's some songs on here that are kind of like I Want to Be Free by Davy Jones. Never really liked that. Stuff like I'll Be True to You, Let's Dance On. But I'd say, you know, 3/4 of it is pretty damn good. And again, it's very nostalgic. It was one of the first albums I ever heard. And my early music roots here, the Monkees debut. Another favorite pan debut. Here's another one I've never heard. I've never understood the hate for. You'd think that Lou Reed's discography, solo discography, started with Transformer, the way that people talk about that album, but there was one before that, just titled Lou Reed, and it doesn't get a lot of attention, and I think there's just a ton of great tracks on here. There's one on here called Wild Child. I really love the lyrics in, and it rocks. And then there's these tracks that were from the latter day Velvet Underground period with Loaded that were recorded around that time, but then re-recorded for this album here. Songs like I Can't Stand It, which ended up on the VU album in '85. Walkin' and Talkin' was another outtake from Loaded. Lisa Says gets another rendering here on this debut album from Lou Reed. That was on the VU compilation album. I Love You as well. It's another great one. Ride Into the Sun, Ocean. All these are most of these are latter-day Velvet Underground songs that didn't make it onto Loaded, but appeared later on the VU compilation and another View. I think it's really great, and it's just an odd cast of characters on this. You got Lou Reed, Steve Howe on electric guitar, Rick Wakeman on piano. I don't know. I think it's fantastic. It has this really low kind of low vibe quality to it, which I really dig. So Lou Reed's debut album from 1972. Later in the year, he would release Transformer, which would completely transform his success and he would become a little more famous than he was with Velvet Underground. And of course, he would go on to this incredible solo career, just a lot of range. A lot of it I don't like, a lot of it I do like. So Lou Reed's debut album from '72. And like the Monkees album, another nostalgic favorite. I think this brings me back to like going to kindergarten, hearing this album being played in the front living room. It's definitely not his best album by most accounts, but I really like the kind of raggedness of it and just kind of homespun treatment, and that is McCartney's debut album. McCartney, you got really two just really fantastic tracks on here. Maybe I'm Amazed, one of his best belters of all time, and just a perfect pop song every night. But the rest is just kind of like half-ass, half-baked material, which I kind of dig. I like the instrumental version of Junk called Sing Along Junk. Really, I mean, without the words, it's really a pretty melody. You got these jams like Mama Miss America, sounds very garagey. That would be something. I think, I believe that Jerry Garcia or the Dead did a cover of that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You got other like instrumental tracks on here like Hot as Sun, which I always found interesting. Man We Was Lonely is cool. Yeah, not a perfect album, but I think there's something about it I've always liked. Probably more nostalgia, but I still think Maybe I'm Amazed is one of his best belters of all time. So those are just some of my favorite panned debut albums of all time. Do you have any to offer in the comments section? Please list them. As always, thanks for watching. If you dig the content across the channel, press subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.